Buenos dias from Guanajuato, Mexico. One of the many very interesting things about Guanajuato is that the entire town seems to be obsessed with Miguel Cervantes' Don Quixote novel. I'm pretty sure everyone will have at least heard of Don Quixote, if not having read it. I had not read it before coming to Guanajuato, but after realizing how popular it is here and how big of an impact it has had on the city, I decided to read it. It is a very long novel. For my e-reader, it says it is 2,556 pages, which is, I think, the longest one I've ever had on there. It does get a little bit skewed on an e-reader. It's not like a tome, like number of pages, but it's a very, very large novel. And I've only managed to get through a quarter of it while I've been here, but absolutely loving it. It is hilarious. I'm standing in front of statues of the two main characters, Don Quixote and his squire, Sancho Panza. Miguel Cervantes wrote Don Quixote. It was first published in 1605 in Spain in Spanish. And from what I understand, it is considered the first modern Spanish novel. The premise of the novel is that there is a gentleman who is obsessed with novels of knights. So like Arthur, the Round Table, Lancelot, those types of characters. So he decides that he is going to become one himself. Even though this is, centuries after knights were a thing, even in the 1600s, that was a very outdated concept. So he manages to get himself suited up in this suit of armor, gets himself a horse, finds somebody to call his squire, and then basically sets loose on the countryside in pursuit of adventures and acts of chivalry, and just gets into all kinds of mischief along the way, and it's very humorous. This statue is just the beginning. There are many, many statues throughout the town, and there's even a museum. So I'm going to explore around the town, try to find as much Don Quixote themed stuff as I can. Just learn a little bit about why people love this novel so much. Right beside me is Teatro Cervantes, the theater named after the author of Don Quixote, obviously. Whoa, look at the clock! Someone's winding.
Huh, no way. I've never seen something like that on a clock like that before.
Oh, it's stopped now. Is that the right time?
Nope.
There it goes. That's funny. The first place I'm going to check out is the Don Quixote Museum. It's not actually called that. It's the Museo Iconográfico del Quijote. And from what I understand, it is essentially a museum based on fan art of Don Quixote. So, should be really cool. Here it is, Museo Iconográfico del Quijote. Here's the man himself. Ooh, it's starting off the way I like it. Just a big bookstore. Yeah.
This is a cool one.
What?
Up here.
Oh, there's actually a statue from out front. Dang. That's cool. That's a pretty large book. is amazing artwork in here. I really like the style. I haven't seen where the artist's name is yet. I have not heard of that artist before. Look at this composite painting. I haven't seen one so good. Up close, it is Don Quixote and Sancho. If you back it up, I think, does it become Cervantes? Or does it become Don Quixote?
Rick Sanchez.
Rick Sanchez, is that? No spoiler, I guess. This is cool. It's a lot bigger than I had anticipated. This is pretty neat. I'm not positive, but it looks like these are original written documents from Cervantes. These are versions of the story translated into different languages. I think that's Japanese. Unfortunately for me, I cannot read Spanish very well. There isn't any English descriptions on here, but it looks like it's really informative. As someone who reads a lot and always have, I of course find a special interest in a museum like this and have to wonder how many museums dedicated to fan art of a particular novel and a particular writer are there in the world. I don't think I've ever came across one before. And if anyone knows of one, please tell me, because I will go find it and read that book if I haven't already. But I do think it's a testament to how well loved this particular book is. Here we have a statue of Miguel Cervantes, the author of Don Quixote. Got another statue coming up ahead. Del increíble interior de Don Quixote de la Mancha. Cool. I think he's got some books down here too. It says Guanajuato, capital Cervantina de America. I wonder if that means that there's also one in Europe. That would be cool. Capital Cervantina de America. In addition to the statues and the museum, there are also a lot of murals around the city. I'm gonna go see if I can find one now. Okay, here is one of the murals, one of the many murals around the city. When I first saw this, before I had started reading the book, I didn't realize that this was a Don Quixote mural, but it is. One of the more famous stories in the novel is to do with the windmills. So it's a very common symbol when talking about Don Quixote. So you see a knight with a windmill, that is who it is. Thing that I have been wondering since I learned about this obsession with the novel is why? Why does the city of Guanajuato love Don Quixote so much? And I did some research and came up with a few contradictory answers, but what I think is the right answer is it started with like a grassroots, unofficial festival where the students in the city would put on plays by the author Miguel Cervantes. So this started in the 50s and eventually became an official festival in the 70s, I think the 70s. So there is the actual Cervantino International Festival that is still held to this day. A very, very famous festival in the state. So that has carried on for 60, 70 years at this point. And additionally, there was a man in the 80s. He was originally a Spanish refugee in Mexico, lived in Mexico City. He was obsessed with Don Quixote. He himself had amassed a huge private collection of artwork surrounding the novel and Cervantes in general. And then in the 80s, donated his entire collection to the city of Guanajuato. And that collection is now the Museo Iconográfico del Quijote. So with those two combining factors, it's just become sort of a citywide obsession, I guess. So lots of people like to, make art on the subject, create murals on it, I guess. So that is what I gathered from the internet, although there are varying sources on the reason. I'd mentioned before that there is the Cervantino Festival here. So it's called something like the International Cervantino Festival. It's grown into a major art festival on many levels. A lot of plays, music, sculptural installations, stuff like that throughout the whole city. And it takes place in October. So I'm not going to be able to check that out, unfortunately. If I had known about that earlier, I would have liked to have made it a point to see it because it sounds like it's quite the event. Another thing I read about Don Quixote is that in the Spanish language, when Spanish-speaking kids are in school, it's very common for them to study Don Quixote in class. Kind of similar to how almost every English-speaking kid will at some point study Shakespeare. So I found that quite intriguing as a comparison. I think I've hit most places in the city with everything Don Quixote related. There might be a few odd murals hanging around that I never saw, but that's always going to happen. Those are always going to pop up. But it was very fun to have a city that loved a novel as much as Guanajuato loves Don Quixote. It's very fun to be introduced to this author and start actually reading this book, even though, like I said, I'm only about a quarter of the way through. I will eventually finish it. And I look forward to finding more cities around the world that have dedications like this.